Tonight on News 5 Live, what is causing the white plume of smoke at the sleeping giant? News 5 has the investigation and exclusive drone footage from the area. Cane farmers pledge to fight child labor, and the driver is charged in a trial farm death following a weekend fight. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
Good morning, sweetie. It's time for school.
Are you a teacher or public sector employee who is thinking of owning your new home? Get the keys to your new home with Belize Bank's all-inclusive mortgage, the best financing option in Belize for your new home purchase or construction. Inclusive of all mortgage-related fees, no down payment, affordable terms, amazingly low interest rates. Visit our nearest branch to speak to one of our financial advisors to discuss how you can be one step closer to owning your new home. Some conditions apply.
With the touch of a finger, we can easily unlock our phones and securely gain access to our data. This technology is called biometrics, and the Social Security Board is introducing fingerprint recognition to make transactions and handling of your sensitive data secure, fast, accurate, and convenient. Is your identity safe? Fingerprint recognition will keep your Social Security record secure and confidential while making your access fast and easy. It protects your identity. Is your name a common one? Fingerprint recognition uses your unique characteristics, ensuring your hard-earned benefits go directly to you, the rightful owner. Tired of all the paperwork? Fingerprinting makes this hassle-free. Your convenience and your information security is our priority. Fingerprint recognition coming soon. Social Security at your fingertips.
Introducing Edam A cheese, the A+ Dutch cheese to hit the Belizean market. As the name says, it is of A-class quality, the best Dutch cheese in Belize. Edam A cheese is creamier, less salty, and simply more delicious. Don't be left out. Get your A cheese at a supermarket near you. A cheese exclusively distributed by Unitex Company Limited. Call us at 610-3626 or 610-8910. Follow us on Facebook at Unitex Belize.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime, while with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
Galenia Hospital, located in Cancun, Mexico's premier tourism destination, is a state-of-the-art healthcare facility that provides highly specialized medical services. We are Quintana Roo's biggest private hospital with board-certified doctors and staff. Some of our services include Cath Lab, Adult Intensive Care Unit, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, emergency rooms, operating theaters, ambulance services, and more. We are a medically accredited hospital by JCI, Accreditation Canada International, and General Health Council, providing extraordinary care in every specialty, from our cardiology department to our neurology center. We are focused on treating the entire person, body, mind, and spirit. Contact us at medicaltourism@hospitalgalenia.com or visit our website at www.hospitalgalenia.com. Come to Galenia Hospital in Cancun for a truly personal medical care experience.
What does live and let live mean to you?
Live and let live means everyone having the freedom to be themselves.
Live and let live means that I can be a mother and have a career.
It means treating people the way you would want to be treated.
And making sure your business is accessible for all Belizeans.
It means that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
It means to love your children no matter what.
It means to support people who face discrimination.
It means that men and women should be treated equally at work.
It means that everyone is able to contribute to building Belize.
It means saying no to all forms of discrimination.
It means love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Live and let live. Respect for all Belizeans.
Development and Housing is creating a registry for contractors with varying disciplines, qualifications, capacities, and skills. This will centralize all registered contractors in efforts of creating equal employment opportunity across the public and private sector, as well as will give confidence for owners in quality of listed contractors. Contractors will be categorized by the following disciplines. 1. General building. 2. Civil works road construction. 3. Bridge construction. 4. Land development. 5. Tradesperson. And 6. Specialist contractor. Applications can be gotten free of charge from the Ministry of Infrastructure Development and Housing for the next 90 days or via email from the Project Execution Unit. Initial applications to the registry will be processed up to the 27th of August 2021. For more information, you can email ceo.secretary@mow.gov.bz or peu@midh.gov.bz. Register today and do your part to build Belize.
Benny's is kicking off Father's Day with popping deals for dad. In the month of June, we're offering 19 to 25% off selected items such as Milwaukee and Axie power tools, car care products, Karcher pressure washers, and much, much more. And that's not all. The race is on Saturday, June 19th. All roads leads to Benny's Cotton Tree Compound, mile 43 on the George Price Highway, where we will host the first ever Benny's 100. To enter the race, all you have to do is purchase your cart kit from Benny's for only $100. Assemble your cart, sign up, and get a chance to ride off with fabulous prizes. Check out our Facebook page for more details. Remember, it's popping deals for dad in June and Benny's 100 on June 19th, only at Benny's. Benny's, Benny's.
The vaccine is now available. We here at Our Friend G Life encourage you to take the vaccine. Belize, it's time to roll up our sleeves.
I'm rolling up mine because I know what COVID can do to families.
Because I want to go back to the way things were.
I'm rolling up mine so that I'm able to do music again.
Because I want to protect my family.
Things are slowly getting back to normal. The new normal, which includes getting vaccinated,
Take the opportunity to get vaccinated at the RFNG Life Wellness Clinic Day on Friday, June 18. We will also have blood pressure, cholesterol, and other screenings available. Get vaccinated. Roll up for Believe.
Times have been challenging. Some days we feel vulnerable, scared, alone. The uncertainty of the future for our families lingers in our minds. But times like these brings out the best in all of us, revealing our resilience and strength, and bringing us together as a people, as a nation. Through partnership with the National Bank and Government of Belize, Digi developed its mobile pay solution, a safe, reliable, and convenient way for approved applicants of the Belize COVID-19 cash transfer program to collect their approved funds at any Digi store or National Bank of Belize location countrywide. Digi wants all Belizeans to know that you are not alone. We remain committed to delivering on the promise of advanced technology and innovative solutions that benefit Belizeans, instilling the hope of a brighter and better future amidst these challenging times. We are here for you.
Hola, Tony.
Hey, Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa?
Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No, hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esta es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021 si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate.
Why should you wear your mask? To protect myself. My friends. My family and others. I wear my mask because I love my grandparents. With so many reasons to wear a mask, we continue to advise persons to wear a face mask properly, covering both nose and mouth. Together, we can keep Belize COVID-19 safe.
I was 17 and in love, and I thought he loved me too. But now I know that a loving partner should not take away your choice of clothes you wear or the music you listen to. He should not take away your purse, car keys, or your phone so that when your family calls, you cannot answer. If your partner is controlling you, it is domestic violence. Call 0800 A Way Out or our cell phone number 672-9628. This message is brought to you by the National Women's Commission in collaboration with Miss Universe Belize with funding from the Engender and Spotlight Project.
Available now at Bravo Motors.
It's a hammer, it's a drill, it's Super Handy Dads. That's right, folks, it's Super Handy Dads month again at Brothers Event. And do we have some super gifts for that super special dad? A Super Handy Dad needs his super tools, And all month long, we're giving you super savings of 15% off all power tools and accessories from Stanley, Black & Decker, DeWalt, Skill, Bosch, and 15% off Santool hand tools and hardware. So come in today to Brothers Habet on Barrack Road for Super Handy Dads Month and pick up those super tools at super savings.
This newscast is brought to you by the Belize Bank Limited. Our country, your bank.
Good evening and welcome to News 5 Live for Wednesday, June 16th. I am Sabrina Daly. Social media has been abuzz with theories of what is happening in the mountains. Some speculate it is volcanic activity, while others say it is a meteorite that struck in the area. Today, personnel from the Geology and Petroleum Unit of the Ministry of Natural Resources were out at a farm on the Hummingbird Highway to witness the smoke billowing in the distance in the area known as the Sleeping Giant in the Maya Mountains. But the trek to the location, several miles from the highway, is treacherous and will take up to 6 hours to get there. So the team, headed by Director Andrea Cha, will go back to the office and collaborate with other departments to plan an expedition to the area. News 5 was able to get aerial footage of the area. Here's that report from Dwayne Moody.
Via drone, the billowing smoke is located some 8,200 feet from the Hummingbird Highway near the Rancho de la Lomas farm, but it can be seen from a distance. Substantial smoke coming through the canopy of the thick, lush forest of the Maya Mountains. It started on Saturday and has been smoking ever since.
Well, my sister was here on Saturday and noticed the steam coming out of the ground. We thought it was just some clouds. There are always clouds coming out of the ground here. And didn't pay much mind until we noticed that the rest of the clouds had gone. And the steam was coming from one particular spot and really quite white.
A report that it may be a fire was ruled out because it has continued despite the recent rains.
So I thought, well, okay, maybe it's a hot spring, but that didn't quite figure because it's high up in the mountains. That only left steam. There's nothing else it could be. So what is causing the steam is the problem, and that would have to be hot rocks of some kind, with water falling on the rocks and coming up as steam. So something is either heating up the rocks from below, or the water is filtering down to the hot rocks and coming back up as steam. And I expect that's what the geologists will have to establish.
Dr. Jeffrey Frankson has been living at the farm for 2 years, but this was the first time he had witnessed something like this. The Department of Geology was called to investigate, and today they visited the area, but due to the terrain, a trek to the area had to be rescheduled for a later date. However, a number of residents from the area made the trip earlier this week and documented the experience.
Ustedes pueden observar esto. Sí, como pueden ver, todavía no hemos llegado exactamente al punto, pero ustedes pueden observar. Oh, se me está calentando los pies. Chica. Pueden observar allá, se observa el río Sibún. Como ustedes saben que aquí andamos en un riesgo peligroso. Sí, aquel que se mira allá es el río. Pues como pueden ver, miren estas piedras, miren qué extrañas, cortadas. No se sabe, pero es algo como de Dios.
One of the workers here had been up there. He had seen the steam before, and he's very familiar with the hills. So they had been up, and he called me and said he wanted to tell me what he had seen. And that's how I found out what he had seen. And we discussed it, and I then called Mr. Andrew Cho with a friend of mine to find out more about what he thought was happening.
Let's talk about what your foreman said he saw, no?
About?
What he saw up there.
Well, he saw trees had been burnt, but not with fire. The area is obviously very hot, so he stayed a safe distance away. But from where he was, he could see that there was a lot of heat, and of course the steam coming virtually out of the ground from where he could stand. He couldn't quite figure out what it was, which is when he decided he's going to come and talk to me about it.
There is no information at this time to suggest any sort of volcanic activity, and an expedition to the area is being scheduled in the days ahead. After doing some online research, Dr. Frankson believes that it is a steam vent.
Well, I looked up steam vents because I assumed that's what it was. I still think that's what they'll find. And they said, yes, that's what happens when you get a crack in the ground and water seeps down to hot rocks below. If the mantle is thin enough, it might be as far as the magma itself. But in any case, there's a lot of heat down there. And if the water seeps down there and meets enough heat, it will evaporate and return to steam and come back up. But it's not under pressure, so there won't be a geyser, which is what you get in places like the Yellowstone Park in the States and so on. So this is just steam coming back up from hot rocks. Well, this is not a volcanic area. There are no volcanoes around here. This is not volcanic soil. None of these mountains are volcanic. The mantle is thick, Mr. Cho tells me. And a thick mantle means that you're not going to get an eruption. So there's not going to be an eruption of lava. There's not going to be a volcano.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
Police have released the post-mortem results of a body found near Lark Key off the coast of Placencia 2 weeks ago. As we reported, when Coast Guard officers found the corpse, it was only half a body, and it was badly decomposed. In fact, they could not even identify its gender. Well, tonight we can say that doctors have identified the remains as a male between the age of 40 to 50, who died from multiple blunt force traumatic injuries to the chest and abdominal area. Given the proximity to the area where a suspected drug plane had crashed into the sea only a few days before, there are suspicions that the body may belong to the plane's pilot. At this time, that has not been verified by police or investigating Coast Guard team. 19-year-old Jillian Garcia lost his life on Sunday night when he was run over by an SUV traveling at high speed. The incident happened in his home village of Trial Farm in Orange Walk District. The teenager had a misunderstanding with a group of young men a few moments prior to that incident, and investigators were tasked with finding out whether he was deliberately knocked down or if the driver of the vehicle justifiably lost control of the wheel and ran over him. Tonight, 29-year-old Luigi Chable has been arrested and charged for manslaughter by negligence, causing death by careless conduct, among a raft of other lesser traffic offenses. The family and other residents who witnessed the incident contend that the driver intentionally ran the vehicle into Garcia, which, once proven, would have made it a case of vehicular homicide. However, the Mitsubishi Outlander that was the alleged weapon was torched near the scene of the deadly collision, limiting the scope of the investigation. Chable was additionally charged with driving a motor vehicle without due care and attention, using an unlicensed motor vehicle, and using a motor vehicle not covered by third-party risk insurance. Police are reporting on 2 fires in Halacte, Toledo district over the last 2 days. On Tuesday, reports are that a thatched structure, which houses the residence of Stephen Coy, and a church had been burned. Coy told police he attempted to extinguish the flames, but his kitchen was destroyed and the back of the church damaged. Earlier today, there was another report of a fire at a thatched home. This time, a Guatemalan woman, Magdalena Chun, says she was preparing to leave for Punta Gorda when she and her common-law husband, Fermin Shaw, got into an argument. She alleges he then set fire to the house, which was totally destroyed by the blaze. Police are investigating the incident. Coming up, trouble on the Isla Bonita as former town council employees threaten legal action. Details when we come back.
Hello, friends. This is Dr. Bob Roberts with another 60-second sermon from God's Word. The Bible says all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads on to thinking on a nice hotel there. He was at the local garage in his overalls one day when a man passing through town had car trouble and stopped for help. The mechanic diagnosed the problem and informed the owner that he would have to have the repair parts shipped to him the next morning, but he could fix it and then quickly send him on his way. The man said that would be okay, and turning to Mr. King in his overalls, thinking him to be someone just hanging around the garage, asked if he knew someone to help carry his suitcases to the hotel. Mr. King said, "Yes, I can do that," and reached down and picked up one piece of luggage in each hand. Walking down the street, the man said, "I noticed driving into town this huge, beautiful home on the hill that must be 7,000 to 10,000 feet in size." He then asked, who in a small town like this would have the money to own a house like that? "Do you know who it belongs to?" Mr. King replied, "Yes, it belongs to me." Being amazed, he asked, "Where in the world did you get the money to own a home like that?" Mr. King replied, "By carrying my own baggage." Hard work brings profit. Who is carrying your baggage? Today's 60-second sermon has been presented by Christian Foundations of Faith in cooperation with the Baptist churches in your area.
When the San Pedro Town Council changed in March following the municipal elections, several employees from the previous administration were terminated. Under the labor laws of Belize, those individuals ought to have been compensated as part of the severance package. That has not been the case. However, despite written correspondence between their attorney and Mayor Wally Nunes. Although it has been 3 months since a new local government took over at Town Hall, their attorneys say there has been no word when or if those persons will be paid. News 5 spoke with attorney Orson Elrington, who represents 15 of those former workers.
There was a change in administrations across this country in municipal governments. One of those municipal governments which changed administration was the San Pedro Town Council. Regrettably, with that change, there was a bevy of dismissals and firings. Now, obviously, my clients and maybe the public can guess what is the reason for those terminations. but that is not nearly why we're here today. We're here today because, as you know, and most Belizeans know, that whenever you terminate the services of an employee, they are due what we call a severance package. And that severance package is based on how much you are being paid and your years of service. And obviously maybe the circumstances surrounding the termination of your employment. And the San Pedro Town Council, when it terminated the services of at least 15 employees whom we represent, there are others, but we do not represent those others, but we represent 15 employees who were terminated by the San Pedro Town Council. And regrettably, when those persons were terminated, they were not given their proper severance package. And that is why we're here today.
According to Elrington, sufficient time has been afforded to the town council and its attorneys to respond to the query. Aside from a delay in response, Elrington says that at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, his clients entered into an agreement with the town council that they would accept a 50% pay cut until the financial situation at Town Hall would resume to normal.
We would have written to the San Pedro Town Council in some circumstances maybe more than a month ago, and we had given them the normal 7-day notice or 14-day notice. I don't remember what it was, and for them to respond to us and for them to make arrangements to make our clients whole. We have been speaking with council for a couple weeks now, who has requested extensions in us taking the necessary legal action. And we have obliged council for a couple weeks in extending the expiration of this notice. However, regrettable, it seems that that notice will come to an expiration, a final expiration, either tomorrow or the day after, without the council having positively responded, and therefore we will be forced to take legal action to recover what is due to our clients. Many of these persons are simply hardworking, ordinary Belizeans who simply want to do what is best for the community, and most importantly, to provide for their families. And therefore, it is most regrettable that these persons have been terminated. Let's use the example of one of the employees that I currently represent. They have been employed by the San Pedro Town Council for some 21 years. 21 years, Isani. And as a result of COVID, they went into an agreement with the Town Council that they would accept half of what is their pay. So imagine the injustice which this person suffers when you calculate their pay at half what it should be, and you still refuse to actually reimburse them for the funds which they would have surrendered over that time period, with the understanding that you would be reimbursed when things go back to normality. Or in this case, if you choose to sever the employee-employer relationship, then you need to reimburse the person.
News 5's efforts to reach Mayor Nunes for comment today were not successful, but we welcome his comments on the matter for tomorrow's newscast. We're 16 days into the Atlantic hurricane season, and NEMO and its partners continue their disaster preparedness. Since the Ministry of Human Development forms the Disaster Relief Committee, they held a planning meeting with NEMO. Here's more from CEO Tanya Santos and NEMO's National Coordinator, Shelton DeFore.
In preparing for the hurricane season, we are the ministry that is responsible for providing supplies right before and during and after a disaster, after an event. So we want to make sure that our people are ready, our community is ready from Corozal to Toledo. Essentially, that was the purpose of our meeting today. Bear in mind that in addition to emergency duties as a part of NEMO, this ministry is also responsible for all of the social protection and social work in the communities. So we have to find a way to strike a balance in responding to these emergencies, but also keeping with our core duties.
Well, NEMA provides oversight to the national committees. So our job is to coordinate and integrate our work plan to ensure that the objectives that we're targeting in terms of readiness, so that each committee reaches to a particular level of preparedness, that once we have to go into action, we know that we have a group of persons who would be on the ground representing these committees, taking actions that would bring goods and services to people in times of disaster. The meeting was to fine-tune the national readiness for the Relief and Supplies Committee to ensure that the key issues were identified and some solutions were established, so as we move forward into the hurricane season, we become better at what we do in terms of being ready to provide services for the people of Belize.
According to the Belize Met Service, the 2021 hurricane season is predicted to have above-average hurricane activity. After the break, just how different is the IMF recommended program for Belize from the Briceño administration's homegrown plan? We will have a comparison when we return. But first, here's a look at the latest COVID-19 figures.
This COVID update is brought to you by Belize Medical Associates. This COVID update was brought to you by Belize Medical Associates.
To expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live stream on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardenia Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your Smart broadband with Smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
In 2019, Belize owed 97% of what it was producing. During the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, Belize's debt increased to 130% of GDP. Prime Minister John Briceño, in his April 9th budget presentation, referred to the situation as Belize's, quote, most severe economic, fiscal, and debt crisis, unquote. The International Monetary Fund, a multilateral institution which fosters the macroeconomic and financial sustainability of its member countries, recently completed its 2021 country report on Belize. And it, too, agrees that the economic situation in Belize is overly complex. Dr. Jaime Guajardo, IMF Mission Chief, was on Open Your Eyes morning show to discuss that report. Tonight, News 5's Paul Lopez looks at that situation.
The scale of just how much the government owes today is breathtaking. The equivalent of $10,000 for every man, woman, and child. $50,000 in debt for each family of 5. The inconceivable total sum of $4.2 billion. That's the number 4. That's the number 4, followed by 9 digits.
Government revenue from tax collection and other services for 2020 fell by more than 28% of what was projected, according to the Prime Minister's presentation. On the other hand, government spending increased.
This is the crux of the exigency we face, and it cannot be overemphasized. The amount we have been collecting fell by a significant amount, almost a third of what we used to collect. Notably, amidst the cuts and reductions in spending in various sectors, wages to public workers actually rose by $11 million, or 2.5%.
Government's 2020 revenue was 8% less than what was needed to meet expenses. Under Briceño's administration, the government of Belize decided that under its homegrown economic plan, it would cut the wage bill and other expenditures with the intentions of changing that deficit to a surplus over the next 3 years. The International Monetary Fund agrees this is a feasible approach.
In the case of fiscal consolidation, we are recommending to increase the primary balance from a deficit of 8.4% of GDP in fiscal year 2020 to a surplus of 3% of GDP in fiscal year 2024. A big part of that we expect to come from a cyclical recovery of revenue. When you look at the revenue of the government, you're going to see that revenue to GDP declined by 4.5 percentage points of GDP. Or put in different terms, revenue declined by more than 25% in 2020, while GDP declined by about 14%. So the revenue to GDP ratio basically declined. And we expect those revenues to come back gradually and to get back to pre-pandemic levels in 2 or 3 years from now.
While the IMF believes that Belize's government does in fact need to address its ballooning wage bill and expenditures, it also recommends the government increases its revenues by broadening its tax base.
Belize has a standard rate for the gross sale tax that is 12.5%, but then it has several items, a large group of items that they are taxed at the 0 rate. We don't believe that all those items are a first necessity for poor households. And therefore, some of them could actually be moved from, instead of having them taxed at the 0 rate, to be taxed at the standard rate. And that would bring revenue.
A technical assistance report from 2012 estimates that Belize forgoes 5% of GDP on 0-rated items. And while the government does not include this recommendation in its so-called homegrown economic plan, it agrees with the IMF that there is a need to improve Belize's business climate to promote private investment.
Government and all stakeholders, especially the public service and the private sector, must together seed and reap higher, more equitable economic growth. Enabling investment, both domestic and foreign, is of the highest priority for this administration. For this year, the IMF forecasts only a modest GDP rebound of 1.9%, with a steep upswing of 6.4% projected for 2022. Their prediction is that a return to pre-COVID economic activity will not occur until financial year 2024-2025 period. While we are more optimistic, contingency plans will be at the ready in the event that the rebound is protracted.
Reporting for News 5, I am Paul Lopez.
When it comes to the government's decision to implement a wage cut, the IMF says this was not a part of its recommendation to local authorities in its 2021 country report. According to Guajardo, mention was only made that there needs to be a reduction in the wage bill. Dr. Guajardo says this is a difference in the views between the IMF and the government of Belize.
In this particular Article 4, we didn't do a specific recommendation on how to cut the wage bill. We did mention that it needs to be reduced because it's one of the items that actually sticks out as being too high in the list compared to other countries, as you just mentioned before. However, if you look at the Article 4 in the 2019 article for consultation. There we have some more specific recommendation on how to cut the wage bill. And the recommendation there was to do a combination of a freeze on the wages, but also a reduction on public sector employment through attrition. It means that when people start retiring from the public sector, not everyone that retires get replaced. Now, the government took a bit of a different approach, and I think the logic for this is twofold. The first one is that the economy is not doing great, so there is not a lot of job opportunities if you start reducing the size of public sector employment, right? So they decided to protect public sector employment and therefore address the issue of the wage bill through wages. The second consideration I think that went through their minds is that they need to do this adjustment program as credible as possible. Especially they need to get the credibility from the market and from the creditors because they are engaging them in, for example, in their restructuring negotiations. Yes. And the way to do that is to show that they are willing to do measures that they're going to provide significant savings, even though they may be difficult and costly in social terms. No?
When looking at long-term solutions to Belize's crisis, the IMF recommends several growth enhancement structural reforms. According to Dr. Guajardo, these are changes Belize can implement to boost the nation's economic activity over time. IMF recommendations include improving the business climate to promote investment, addressing crime, and building resilience to climate change.
The first one is the need to improve the business climate to promote private investment. Yes. And here the key initiatives are improving access to credit, also lowering barriers to entry in product markets. So if someone wants to create a new company and wants to produce, you should be able to do it quickly, and therefore that's going to enhance competition. There is also a need to invest in key infrastructure. For example, in all the discussion that we have during the mission, it was mentioned that the agricultural sector, for example, get affected because infrastructure is not adequate. Not only the development of agriculture is being harmed by this, but also the interconnectedness between the tourism sector and agriculture. Like hotels, for example, are importing food products instead of buying local because they don't have the guarantee that the local products are going to be distributed to them in the due date and in the quality that are required. No? And part of that is because of infrastructure. So infrastructure is another key element that needs to be considered there. And then for the medium term, there is also need to improve education and human capital, and that's going to lead to high growth. The last point on improving the business climate probably is something that we also have mentioned for many years now, is the need to implement policies to reduce crime.
This news just in. A BDF soldier lost his life in a late evening road traffic accident in Jacintoville, Toledo district. News 5 has confirmed that the BDF officer was on a motorcycle which reportedly collided into a BEL pickup truck. We will withhold the identity of the officer until the family is duly informed. More on this in Thursday's newscast. Just ahead, the internet may be abuzz, but the UDP party chairman is playing it cool. Don't go away.
What is climate change? Climate change, or global warming, as defined by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, is said to be the process of our planet heating up. The Earth has warmed by an average of 1 degree Celsius in the last century, and although that might not sound like much, it means big things for humans and wildlife around the globe. Rising temperatures is making our weather more extreme and unpredictable. Some impacts of climate change in Belize are flooding, drought, unstable weather patterns, and changes in seasons that affect agriculture, human, and wildlife activities. What is REDD+? REDD+ is a mitigation activity to reduce carbon emissions and increase carbon stock in the forest sector. The name REDD+ stands for Reducing Emission from Deforestation and Forest Degradation, plus Conservation, Sustainable Management of Forest and Carbon Stock Enhancement. How can REDD+ be a solution? Trees breathe the greenhouse gases we produce. We can start caring more for our forests by planting more trees and keeping our landscapes intact. Our forests are part of the solution. Also, by encouraging the adoption of sustainable forest management in Belize, we can help restore forests that have been lost.
Forests are linked to all aspects of human well-being. Think about the clean air that forests provide, that oxygen that we breathe. If it wasn't so clean, especially during that fire season, we would actually be facing a lot of problems. So breathing clean air is something that we may take for granted, but it's actually something that forest provides and that contributes to our health and happiness. One of the advantages of doing things associated with REDD+ in Belize is that it actually is a great mechanism for us to be able to maintain forests while at the same time sustainably using them and keeping all the services and goods that the forest provides to us intact, for example, water. At night, it's the trees and the plants in the forest that actually release that water that goes up in the atmosphere and eventually comes back as rain. If we don't have forests, that water is gone. If we think about our food security and the food that we eat, the agriculture industry and how important it is for Belize, we don't necessarily associate it sometimes with actual forests, but it's those forests that actually feed the soil organisms that cycle the nutrients and make our soils fertile. It's those forests that are a house and home for pollinators that pollinate our crops. And it's those forests that maintain the water that our agricultural areas need to thrive. Otherwise, we would be subject to things like droughts.
There is hope with REDD+.
To commemorate Child Labor Elimination Day on June 12th, the Belize Sugarcane Farmers Association is pledging its commitment to develop and ratify its youth policy for decent employment, skills development, and business opportunities by the end of 2021. A release from the association says they stand in solidarity with the global commitment to end child labor, specifically in relation to Target 8.7 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. As a member of Fair Trade International and as a socially responsible producer organization, the Belize Sugarcane Farmers Association, together with its 3,360 members, is committed to respecting and promoting the human rights of its members and workers and their families. As part of its efforts to scale up its work in mitigating and eliminating child labor, forced labor, and gender-based violence, they are now focusing on youth, ages 16 to 28, who are likely to be impacted by unacceptable practices. Since 2015, the BSCFA has bolstered yearly investments in programs and projects that promote awareness on the rights of vulnerable groups, particularly children, youth, and/or women. They also conducted a Fair Trade International funded study on youth cane cutters and held stakeholder discussions in Belize with government, industry, NGOs, schools, and UNICEF on children and youth in the sugarcane sector. If you live along the Macau River or near the Chaleo Dam, the Belize Electric Company Limited is hosting a virtual public information session tonight. You may want to attend. The session is being held to update the community about BICOL's mercury in fish data, the water quality of the Macau River, and their early warning system. News 5 spoke to Oscar Alonso, the Environment, Health and Safety Officer.
Tonight's session is a public information session, otherwise known as a public meeting. We used to do them in person, physically before the pandemic, but of course with the pandemic restrictions, now we had to move to a virtual platform. The meetings are basically geared to informing the public, keeping the public informed and updated as it relates to different issues that arise due to the operation of the hydroelectric facilities, right? The three topics you see listed, those are the main themes that interest people or are of interest to the health and well-being of communities and residents. Those being, one of them is the emergency procedure in the event of a dam emergency. Then we also do several environmental studies in order to ensure that our activities are not negatively impacting the environment as well as the health and well-being of communities downstream, right? One of these is the water quality monitoring program we have had in place for the past about 15, 16 years or more. The other one is mercury in fish, which is another big issue when it comes to hydroelectric dams.
The virtual forum is scheduled for 7 p.m. The link is available on the Government of Belize Press Office Facebook page. Earlier today, the Government of Belize Press Office issued a release noting that the Minister of Public Utilities, Energy and Logistics, Rodwell Ferguson, and his executive staff paid a visit to the Toledo Dam on the 8th of June. Is there a move afoot to trigger a recall of Colette Area Representative Patrick Faber as leader of the United Democratic Party? The rumor mill has it that a petition is being circulated among delegates to solicit signatures to trigger a recall convention. Reports are that the signatures collected thus far exceeds the minimal threshold of 177 names. However, when News 5 spoke to UDP Chairman Mike Perifete earlier today, he told us while he too has heard rumors of such a petition, nothing formal has reached his desk. Faber, as we reported 2 weeks ago, was at the heart of a scandal following the leak of a video involving a domestic altercation with the mother of his young daughter. In the wake of that incident, the UDP party leader publicly apologized for his actions. Coming up, he looks like an accomplished painter now, but would you believe this artist is self-taught and from online sources? We will have this story when we return, but first, here's a weather forecast with data from the Belize Met Service.
Únicamente con Smart obtienes todo realmente ilimitado. Solo con Smart obtienes datos ilimitados en cualquier momento. Mientras que con el otro proveedor solo son datos dobles los fines de semana. Con datos ilimitados todos los días no hay necesidad de esperar, así que es un hecho que nuestros planes ilimitados superan a la competencia. Por lo tanto, no permita que le digan cómo y cuándo usar sus datos y obtenga llamadas, mensajes de texto y datos ilimitados. Vive la verdadera experiencia de planes ilimitados con Smart. Es un hecho. Haga el cambio y viva Smart.
We take you to Bella Vista tonight to meet a rising artist from that southern village. Like many artists, he has a studio. But what is not as obvious is that this self-taught painter learned all his techniques from online classes. Now, he's not only making his living from art, he's exporting it as well. Reporter Andrea Polanco has tonight's artist profile. We will let her introduce you to Kevin Morales, the young man who put down his hammer and picked up a paintbrush.
When I was 9 years old, I started doing sketches in my books in primary school, and I was always having problem in class because of my teacher saw me I wasn't paying attention because I was always doing sketches in class.
Did you ever imagine that you'd be here today with your own studio doing commissioned pieces for customers?
No. I was always getting negative comments.
These days, 25-year-old Kevin Morales is a long way from doing sketches in notebooks. He has a painting studio in his home village of Bella Vista. There, he paints realistic art on canvas that's commissioned by people all over the world.
They will tell me, we want you to do me this painting. They will give me a reference picture and the size. So, and they give me their address and I send them to their country. Yeah, and the first one I sent was to Germany. That was the first one. Then after that, it was US and then Canada. And then since then, this has become my full-time job.
His career took off almost 5 years ago when he met two persons in Placencia who recognized his talent and pushed him to do more.
They saw my work and they said, Kevin, we would like to introduce you into canvas painting. But before that, I didn't know anything about canvas. So they helped me with the materials, with the paint, with the brushes, and they say, Kevin, we want you to come for the art fest. That was in 2017.
While he's a self-taught creative and had some artistic skills, he also had a lot to learn about the art of painting. It wasn't easy, but he hasn't looked back since.
But at that time, I didn't know anything. So I went to YouTube, watched tutorials about how to use different brushes, the paint. So with the time, I got better. It was very hard for me because, in Belize, we don't have art schools, they don't teach like much of art classes. So I had to look for that on my own. I started to do research on Google and YouTube, a lot of YouTube, and that was what helped me a lot. It was a bit hard because I wasn't selling that much, but now thanks to God I am selling a good amount and I'm always having commissions to do. All of that is because I have put a lot of interest into it, a lot of time, so that this is what basically my 4 years, 6 months has been.
Morales was a construction worker before his painting career became viable enough for him to earn his living from painting full-time. He wants other artists to be encouraged by his story.
Working at a construction site, it wasn't that good. I wasn't generating that amount of money for the things I wanted to do in life. This year I started my house and I am very happy because I have done something that some people thought that I wouldn't have done it because here in Belize they don't see art as a big thing. Everybody in Belize wouldn't say that you can make a living out of it, but with time I am done it. I would just like to tell the young Belizean guys that they wanna start doing paintings to like how I said before, we in Belize we don't have any art schools, to just keep on. They have YouTube so that they can go on YouTube and start their own research. And in the future, I think I will be doing like tutorials of how to paint. That's one of my plans too in the future. So I am hoping I can help with that. The Belizean, the young Belizean.
A painting can take anywhere from a few days to over 2 weeks. Kevin's paintings are inspired by nature and the things around him. He particularly loves big cats and sea turtles.
I am more into realistic. Well, I try all my best to put into so that my paintings look real. And the other thing is that tourists is here in Belize, that is something that what tourists are looking more of, you know, like the wildlife here in Belize, you know, flora and fauna.
What has been your favorite piece that you've done so far?
My favorite piece, I mostly like my jaguars and sea turtles. I just love it. I just love painting, doing realistic, you know, stuff.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
If you want to connect with Kevin Morales, you can find him on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Morales Arts. And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Sabrina Daly. Thanks for joining us, and from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night.